So, with Universal Studios trying to branch out more with Universal Monsters, really trying to make them bigger, like really, the marketing's been really big for them as of late. Obviously, we've had new movies, even though I thought Renfield and Voyage of the Demeter were good, box office said otherwise. But there has been a massive increase in interest for the Universal Monsters, and Universal really wants to push the Universal Monsters. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to talk about I just pitch an idea. Like, pitch this idea for a new a new campaign for that marketing. And that is video games. We haven't really gotten Universal Monster video games, I don't think ever. Probably because they are in the public domain. But here's the thing, Universal really does corner the market on the Universal Monsters because those versions of them are theirs. And not to say, like, they couldn't do, like, these characters because they're in public domain, it would still be their games. But it would be, like, their version of the characters. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to, like, talk about, like, just a pitch idea for one of the Universal Monsters. Of course, starting off with Dracula. If this does well, I might do pitches for the other Universal Monsters. But this was the one that really made me go, yeah, this would be cool. As a Dracula video game would be pretty cool. And it's not to say we haven't had Dracula video games in the past. We've had them from other companies, as well as, you know, obviously Dracula being an endgame boss, and obviously Castlevania. That's just one. But here I thought, like, what if Universal took that monster magic they've known for the movies and put it to a video game? Like, what would that be? So first and foremost, like, what would this Dracula game be? Well, how I would have it is that this is a Dracula game that is set after the events of the original 1931 movie. This is right after 1931, and this kind of disregards Daughter of Dracula and really Son of Dracula as well, because here I would have it that in this version, Dracula has been resurrected by other followers. It turns out that Dracula had other followers outside of Renfield, and they find his body and resurrect him. But the problem is that Dracula is pretty weak, and essentially what he has to do is regain his strength. Not only that, the death of Dracula has left a power vacuum among other vampires, and many of those vampires are starting to move in and take a lot of his territory. So Dracula and his remaining servants have to basically root out these other vampire groups, as well as deal with vampire hunters and also throughout the game, Dracula has to, like, regain all of his power because he's so weak. So he has to, like, feed constantly. He has to feed and also, like, retrain his body. Now, obviously, this game, I would have this be a free roam, like Victorian London free roam. Like, just imagine that real quick of how cool that would be to have a Victorian London style game, like the vein of Spider-Man, the Sony Spider-Man games, but traveling around Victorian London, like where you could go, what you could do. I think it would be really cool to have, like, you know, to do that, like to travel around at night. Obviously, like, during the day, that's the other question, is, like, when you're doing free roam at night, like, what do we do during the day? Obviously, Dracula can't go out in sunlight, he'll die. So here's what I would do for sunlight. Basically, like, you would have a timer on, like, your screen would have, like, a time, like, you would have, like, a pocket watch, and it would show you the hours until daylight. And when it gets closer to daylight, you have to travel to somewhere secluded. Obviously, one of the boxes, like, basically, like, you would have, like, points, kind of like checkpoints to travel to and sleep during the day and regain your health and, you know, boost your XP and whatnot, and even do, like, upgrades to your abilities and what have you. But also, these checkpoints would also, you grow them. Kind of like how Dracula in the book wanted to have Carfax Abbey be the home base of his vampire army with all those boxes. Here I would have it that his servants are like, yeah, we put them throughout the city, and also I would have it that Dracula can even make more of these make more of these safe houses in a way, where the servants tell him that like we had boxes of earth, but we lost them to like your rival groups. And even if you like, I would even have like vampire nests that when you clear them out, you can take over those nests and also have a place to sleep. There would be many, and I would also have like quick places, like quick places in case like the sun's coming up. You could have it that Dracula you can have Dracula crawl into the sewer and just hide there during the day and then just climb out. The difference being if you do one of these quick, or like an old church where you can just hide during the sunlight, if you do these you only get minimal health back, and you can and half your XP also is in use. So that's what I would do to kind of combat the sunlight, kind of make it a little of a challenge. I wouldn't make it too hard though, but yeah, that's what I would like to do. The other thing is that with these other vampires, would I use like famous vampires like Camilla or Elizabeth Bathory? Maybe, I don't know. I would have like a cool side quest is where Dracula, this would be a side mission where Dracula is like on the hunt, but he also encounters like one of his vampires who was posing as a prostitute was found murdered, and it's it's like a detective game part, and you eventually discover it's Jack the Ripper. So Dracula versus Jack the Ripper, it's been done before, but I think it would be a cool way to play with that as a side mission. As for other missions, I would have like obviously Dracula getting his revenge on like Van Helsing, as well as John Harker getting Mina back. I would even have like maybe like some original vampires. I don't know if I use, because everyone uses Bathory and Camilla for, other vampires. I mean, yes, Bathory was a famous serial killer who everyone associates with a vampire. In fact, that's what helped Bram Stoker make Dracula in the first place. She was one of the major inspirations. And Camilla was the first vampire story before that. I would have, but they've been used so many times that maybe some original vampires would be cool. Although, I would say one vampire I would like to use from lore is Ambacran, he's hard to pronounce name, but Ambacran was a vampire that was a major inspiration for Bram Stoker to create Dracula. Even more so than Vlad Tepes himself. Basically, he was a vampire of Celtic lore, and he had a stake put through him to keep him down in the earth. And if it moved, he'd come crawling out. So maybe have it that he's one of these vampire lords that is trying to usurp Dracula because he's old. And I would even have him be like maybe either the leader or one of the endgame bosses, because he is older than Dracula. He's one of the first vampires in lore. So I think that would be a neat idea to really play with. I would even have like a tutorial game where the tutorial is Dracula back as Vlad Tepes, and you have him like killing his way through the Turkish army, and that's how you learn how you use your abilities. I'd even have like a special move where you just impale someone through a massive spear or something like that. Really play with the idea, make it a good and gory like God of War type tutorial before we get into the main game. As for like what abilities you could have, obviously you drain blood from someone, you get their health, but also that gives you a new member to worship you. Hypnotism, that could be something you could strengthen. Like at first you can only like hypnotize someone for like a good few seconds because they get their senses back, but as you strengthen it, the stronger that hypnotism gets. Control over rodents and other, like you could summon rats to find keys or something for you, or as an attack, spiders and all nocturnal creatures are yours to command. As for transformations, obviously you could turn into a thing of mist and seep under cracks of doors, turn into a wolf, use that in combat, turn into a bat to help you fly through the air, or, summon bats and see through their eyes, kind of like how you use the owl in Far Cry Primal as like a telescope. As like, so things like that would be really cool, really harness like that kind of vampire power. And yes, I'm aware there was an Xbox One game called Vampire. Wasn't great. Did a lot of that, but I was like, man, what if we took the idea for Vampire and made it interesting? That's what I'm kind of throwing out here. The other thing is too is like, since this is going to be a Universal Monster game, I would really love to throw out, make this interconnected, kind of like how the Sony Spider-Man games are connected to the Marvel Universe. So maybe have like mentions of Jack Griffin, Victor Frankenstein, Victor Frankenstein, Frankenstein. Why did I say Frankenstein? Frankenstein. Victor Frankenstein, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I would actually have Jekyll in the game, maybe as a character you come across. But yeah, really play with that idea. So there you go, guys. That's pretty much my pitch for a Universal Monster Dracula game. You guys tell me in the comments below, what did you guys think of it? And let me know in the comments below if you would want to see me do a pitch for another Universal Monster video game. Just comment below, let me know. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say about this one. But other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.